All right, this week's 5 Minute Museum is going to hopefully further inspire you on different ways that artists have answered the prompt of identity in art. So, a lot of times, people will be using identify as far as like different racial, ethnic, or religious groups, but sometimes it will be different groupings, and there's quite a few people in this presentation that are bringing light to issues of identity as they pertain to being female. And our first artist for this is Cindy Sherman. So Cindy Sherman is actually a photographer, and that's her. And she was born in 1954 outside of New York. She studied painting initially, but she found it too limiting and turned to photography. So she came to artistic maturity in the 1980s, and that was when she was working on her master's degree. And she created this series that really addressed female identity issues, and she wanted to call into question with her master's thesis how the media influences our individual identities. And she did, again, focus mostly on um, the female identity because she is actually the subject of all of her images, almost all of them. So she really came to be very popular with her series called Untitled Film Stills. And this really is kind of something that she started as she was working on her master's degree and really continued for quite a few years afterward. But they are all self-portraits where she dresses up in different costumes, does different makeup, does different settings, and she's really investigating the different roles and the different identities that women have, and particularly the stereotypes of the 20th century. So she calls it her Every Woman series. So these are both self-portraits of Cindy Sherman. So on the left, she's kind of portraying this stereotype of the career girl in the big city and the clothes that she feels would be reflective of that stereotype. And on the right, I know this looks a little bit weird, but in the 1980s, these colorful tracksuits were really popular. And again, you can kind of again see how she's really overemphasizing that overly tanned skin tone and the bleach blonde hair, and she's wearing a tiara as being a member of like a beauty pageant type club. So she is that super trendy former beauty pageant, always trying to be the pretty mom kind of stereotype here. A couple more, and again, all of these are all Cindy Sherman. So she's got that sort of hairy career girl who's slash mom whose grocery bag has just been torn, and sort of that more innocent victim type stereotype. She almost looks like she's playing a part in a horror movie on the top right there. And that sort of 1980s, again, corporate photograph type looking thing. So I know it looks very exaggerated, but if you were there in the 80s and the early 90s, that would not really be that exaggerated. That sort of helmety hair and those glasses and that sort of corporate imagery is what she's going for there. So again, exploring those. She's said before that she's tried to work with other people and to get them to pose and do the costumings and sort of play the roles. But she says that they never quite are able to know what she's looking for because sometimes she doesn't even know what she's looking for. So she says she winds up redoing them most of the time anyway. So again, most of them are self-portraits. Kelly Rinstein is a painter, and she's again looking at issues of identity and stereotypes as they deal with women. And she was born in Flint, Michigan in 1967 and attended Central Michigan University for Fashion, which really comes into play here because you'll see that there is a big focus on fashion for women here. So she's looking at the roles of modern women and using these fashion elements with props of household tasks that are traditionally masculine. So she's trying to challenge you, the viewer, you know, what is traditionally feminine and what is traditionally masculine, and really can't women really do anything in the 21st century? So you can see again her influence of fashion here with kind of a 1950s flair with those A-line skirts and some of that detailing from the 1950s. But she's giving these women these tools that are traditionally masculine. So the chainsaw and the axe, and I think I've got another pair here, where again, why can't women do that as well as men? So kind of challenging you. Do we have to keep making the stereotype or perpetuating the stereotype that women have certain jobs that we deem feminine and men have other jobs that we deem masculine? Like, is it okay to cross that border? And our next person, our group, this is actually a group called the Gorilla Girls, and the gorilla there is spelled correctly because their deal is that they are a flexible group that's been making art for a long time, and they really feel like women are underrepresented in art museums and challenging that idea that women have sort of been intentionally excluded. And they will tend to make very public works of art, and they will come in very quickly, they will make the art, and then they will leave in sort of that guerrilla warfare, which is why they spell it this way. However, they also wear gorilla masks. So they're a bunch of activists that have been continually active since 1985, and they do wear the gorilla masks to keep the focus on the issues and the artwork and not on who they are as individuals. So these are all female artists that will flexibly join this group and kind of disband from the group as they see fit, because they feel like they're not getting as much credit for their own work because they are women. So they want to reveal and address gender and ethnic biases and fight discrimination and all that is unfair. They call it creative complaining, and they've done posters, stickers, and street projects. And if you want to watch a video on them, you can take that link and go ahead and watch a video on them. But this is them. So again, they're going in there with this spontaneous art making. So that's their guerrilla warfare, but they're always wearing the gorilla masks. And again, it's to keep the focus on the art and not on who they are as individuals, so that you can't criticize them as individuals. You have to address their artwork. So this is one of their pieces. It was a billboard that was put out, and it really is addressing again how white men, who are the ones who are usually in charge of art museums, will typically underrepresent women and people of color in museums. So again, this is their idea of creative complaining. And again, they've done some data that blocks this. So again, this is a billboard that they put up where that less than 5% of the actual artists in the Modern Art Museum, the Metropolitan Museum of Modern Art, are done by women, but 85% of the nudes are female. So again, why is that? And again, it's typically white European descendant males who are making those selections, so they're trying to bring attention to that discrepancy. And that is your 5-minute museum for this week.